Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. I am beyond excited for today's guest. He's the man who turned dots into masterpieces. For those who may somehow not know who you are you?
Hello, Calvin. I am Georges Seurat, an artist from Paris. People often call me the father of neo-impressionism, though I preferred the term chromoluminarism. I suppose most know me as the man who painted with tiny dots.
Chromoluminarism, that's a mouthful. Let's go back to the beginning. When and where were you born?
I was born on December 2nd, 1859, right in the heart of Paris, France.
And what was your given name at birth?
It was simply Georges Pierre Seurat.
Is there a story behind your birth name?
Nothing too theatrical, I'm afraid. Pierre was my father's name. In French tradition, we often carry the names of our elders to keep the lineage strong.
Classic. Now, what was your hometown of Paris like growing up?
Paris was a whirlwind. It was the 1860s and 70s, a time of massive change. The city was being rebuilt with wide boulevards and beautiful parks. It was a playground of light and geometry, which I think stayed with me forever.
What was your family life like?
It was very stable, quite bourgeois. My father, Antoine, was a legal official and a bit of a recluse. He spent much of his time at his cottage in Lohancy. My mother, Ernestine, was very kind and supportive of my interests. We lived comfortably in the 10th arrondissement.
What kind of kid were you?
I was very quiet and exceptionally disciplined. I wasn't one for running wild in the streets. I was the boy you would find in the corner with a pencil and paper, obsessing over the way a shadow fell across a table.
Every genius starts somewhere. What were your biggest fears growing up?
I feared chaos. I disliked things that lacked order or logic. Even as a child, I wanted to understand the rules of beauty. I suppose I was afraid of being an artist who just guessed rather than knew.
That explains the precision. What did you dream of becoming as a child?
An artist, always. There was never a plan B. I wanted to master the craft as well as the old masters I saw in the Louvre.
What were some of your favorite activities in school?
I loved my drawing classes at the École des Beaux-Arts, of course. But I was also deeply fascinated by science, specifically the physics of light and color theory. While other students were painting feelings, I was reading textbooks on optics.
What was your first job?
After my schooling, I served my year of military service at the Brest Military Academy. It wasn't art, but the discipline suited me perfectly.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different from everyone else?
It was when I realized I couldn't just paint like the Impressionists. I loved their light, but I found their technique too messy, too fleeting. I realized my brain worked in a more mathematical way. I didn't want to just catch a moment. I wanted to build it dot by dot.
What's a decision that changed everything for you but felt small at the time?
Deciding to visit the island of La Grande Jatte. At first, it was just a place to sketch on my days off. I didn't know it would become the site of my most famous work and consume 2 years of my life.
What was your biggest break?
The 1884 Salon des Indépendants. I exhibited bathers at Asnières there. It had been rejected by the official salon, but at the Indépendant, it caught the eye of other artists who saw that I was doing something entirely new.
What were your biggest struggles before success?
Being misunderstood. Critics thought my work was mechanical or cold because of the dots. They didn't understand that I was trying to create more brilliance by using the viewer's own eyes to mix the colors.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Never. I was too obsessed with the science of it. If someone didn't like a painting, I just figured I hadn't perfected the formula yet.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel are essential to your success?
Methodical persistence. I would spend all day at the island sketching, then all night in the studio applying the paint. I worked in very low light sometimes to see the values better. I was a monk for my art.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
Perhaps a scientist or a mathematician. something where I could categorize the world.
What was your life like before fame?
Very private. I lived a double life, in a way. My artist friends didn't even know I had a mistress and a son for a long time. I kept my personal world and my canvas world very separate.
How did relationships change after success?
I became a leader of sorts for the neo-impressionists like Paul Signac. It was wonderful to have disciples who understood the Pointillism method, though I still remained quite guarded.
Did fame bring happiness?
Satisfaction, yes. Happiness for me was seeing a theory proven correct on the canvas.
What was the downside of becoming famous?
The jealousy of others. Some artists felt I was trying to turn art into a cold science, and they resented the attention my dots received.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
That I was a machine. People thought because my technique was so precise, I didn't have a soul. But every dot was placed with love for the light.
What was your darkest moment?
Seeing the official salon reject my work. It felt like the gatekeepers of art were closing the door on the future. But that's why we started our own group.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
Michel Eugene Chevreul. He was a chemist who wrote about the law of simultaneous contrast of colors. His book was my Bible.
What was life like in your final years?
I was working harder than ever. I was living with Madeleine Knobloch and our young son. I was obsessed with capturing the movement of the circus and the stage.
What were you working on in your career before you passed away?
I was working on the circus. I wanted to show how lines and colors could create a feeling of upward joy and excitement.
When and where did you pass away?
I passed away in Paris on March 29th, 1891. I was only 31 years old.
What happened?
The doctors called it infectious angina, likely what you now know as diphtheria. It moved very quickly.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I used to paint the frames of my pictures with dots too. I wanted the transition from the painting to the wall to be part of the optical experience.
What's the craziest rumor ever told about you?
That I was so secretive, I didn't even tell my own mother about my family until days before I died. Sadly, that one was actually true. I was a very private man.
What was your most unique habit?
I would often spend the entire day just looking at the water without painting a single stroke, just to understand the vibration of the light.
What was your favorite food?
I enjoyed simple French cafe food, a good crusty baguette and some cheese. I didn't have time for fancy feasts.
Did you have any known rivalries?
There was some tension with the older Impressionists. They felt my work was too stiff. I felt their work was too unstructured. It was a clash of philosophies.
What's your funniest behind-the-scenes moment?
Watching people try to look at my paintings up close. They would put their noses right against the canvas and say, "It's just a mess of confetti." Then they would step back and gasp when the image appeared. I loved that aha moment.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Trust your logic as much as your heart. Don't just follow the crowd. Create a system that makes sense to you, and work at it until the world has no choice but to see what you see.
George, do you have any closing remarks about the interview or the stories you shared that you would like to share with the listeners before signing off?
Only that I am so happy to see that my dots are still bringing color to the world. Art is a harmony of contrasts, and life is much the same. Thank you for letting me share my light with you again, Calvin.
Wow, what a legend. From the physics of colour to the shores of La Grande Jatte, Georges Seurat really showed us how to see the world in a whole new way. Thanks for coming on the show, Georges. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.